and go back and look at what your heart's been doing over the past several months, I guess. I don't know. But anyhow, she said, oh, your heart's doing really good. Well, no, wait, one time it wasn't. And she said, the defibrillator took care of that, though. And I said, well, I never felt it. She said, that's the good kind. It took care of it. So,
like a generator.
Yeah, kind of. Kicks in real quick.
Do you not have a monitor that you keep out of bed?
But you have to send that to them. It doesn't just, I don't think, because it says if you want to, before your doctor's appointment, you punch a button and send it in. And you may have a better unit.
They like to feel me all the time.
Yeah, yeah. The monthly fee.
I don't know that there's any fee on mine. If it is, they're taking out of insurance. Yeah, the real one. Yeah. They did send me they did send me a thing that said this is not a bill. It's just telling you what the charges are about things, you know. And that second hospital bill was unbelievable. And the defibrillator unit itself, unbelievable. How much that cost? Thank goodness for insurance, or we would all be broke.
Everyone needs to please come tonight. Please support the hard work tonight and great message coming.
Tonight at 6 o'clock, correct, Robert, is the Christmas play. You'll enjoy it, I think. And, you know, you don't realize how many people are involved. Sometime when you have time, go down the hallway there by the Sunday school rooms to the music and choir room and look at the pictures that Robert and Jeannie have put up over the years. And look at those group pictures of the people involved. It's amazing, the number of people that are involved. And so I think we're blessed to have Robert and Jeannie to put something like that on and put it together. But we're blessed that we have young people that want to be involved and children. And we got some real young ones that just can't wait till they're old enough, to be in it. And they're excited. One that you will see is Mila Hutcherson, She's hardly old enough to do it, but she's in there, and you'll see her on the front row. Albert Simpson's little boy, in it. And they're just precious to watch. But they had auditions, and I don't know, they had Mila read something, or what was it? That was something else. That was something else that she did, though. But something she did, I forgot what it was for, but she actually cried on cue. Mila did. Tear came down her face.
When we were singing Kumbaya on Teen Kids.
Oh, okay.
Someone's crying, Lord.
Oh, somebody's crying in the song. Someone's crying, Lord, come by. She started crying.
Now we skip that part.
That's acting right there now. That's
inconsolable the rest of the time.
I can't believe the way when they sing, everybody up there, it sounds like you're listening to a tape or something, or a CD. It's not like these but people are singing. It's just, it's like a CD or something.
The one person that you'll want to come here is a girl named Mim. I don't know if y'all know her or not, Mim Hollis, but may or may not be related to Denton and Pam back there.
Oh, she is.
She was in this group as a child.
She was married.
She was married one year.
And then she swung the dog out of the leg the whole time.
But she has a solo, you know, and so very prominent solo in it. There, a lot of children have solos, but hers is very prominent. Of course, Jake is the star of the whole thing, but
There's some great adult actors
Yes, we do.
in this room.
You're one of them.
well, Ricky Finney, of course, is up this year for an Oscar.
The best ears. The
Yeah.
best ears.
He's wearing Spock ears tonight, if you want to see that. Now, the Spock ears, they're for effect, but he's had to work with them because we have to change into shepherd's costumes and pull something over your head, and he has to do that without hurting his ears, you know. But now, you know, he's got a little bit of mischief in him still, you know, at his age even. But he's convinced some of these kids that he can't hear them when he has those ears in, and they come up and scream at him. And he acts like he can't hear them, which I think is a little mean and cruel to the little kids, you know, like that. But I think y'all will enjoy it, and just at the end, just to be amazed, I think, at the number of people that are taking a curtain call at the end of that. But the other picture, we had a picture of that the other night at rehearsal, but the other picture that to me was amazing was 2 Wednesdays ago when we did those Samaritan Purse shoe boxes. The number of people who were in that building over there putting those shoe boxes together. It was a church photo at the end of those. If you hadn't seen that, like on Facebook or somewhere, that was a church effort. And I thought it was a crazy idea to get the young people and kids involved in that it would be utter chaos, and it was, but it was chaotic, but it worked, you know, and the boxes were done, and the kids just so thoroughly enjoyed that. And when we had that picture, you know, like I'll say to one of these kids, I said, "Did you help with the shoe boxes?" "Yes, I did." I said, "Were you in the picture?" "I was." You know, so they were so proud to be a part of that historical event of our church. And all that does is build it up for next year. You know, next year we'll have 500 or 600 boxes probably, but it's something. So those kind of things are going on in our church, and that's just a wonderful thing. But then next Sunday will be the cantata, right? Robert, we need to have a surprise party for Robert and Jeannie at Carmack's after that. But
We'll have
anyhow.
a 6 month sabbatical after that. Yes, we're happy it's coming together. Jeannie does 90% of the play. For those who are involved, it's really a lot of work. It's work like you do.
Well, that's a joyous work, you know, rewarding work. But anyhow, very good. I was going to say, even though Jake is like the star of it, his son, Nash, you know, is coming on. He would be best supporting actor this year probably.
Oh, yeah.
You'll see him more involved, even though I don't even think he wanted to be in it. And his mother and dad made him. But he's got as much ham in him as Jake does. So
Started when he was 3.
Yeah,
He was too afraid to even walk up on the
he
stairs.
cried when it was time to go up there.
he's not
He
crying.
grabbed his leg when she was doing choreography, he wouldn't get up there. So
Well, you probably know he's the state junior Lady Club president.
Yeah,
He
he won that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was really good.
And he gave a fantastic speech, of course, just like you said. And his sister did the same thing last year. She was
Right.
last year's state president.
I tried to give him a line that he liked, but Jake nixed it. I thought it would have made the speech better. But I said, because he talked about Nash and trash, you know, and I said, you should say, listen, I'm not trash talking, I'm Nash talking. and they nixed that. I still,
Went over the time. You couldn't add that in.
yeah, it's too many words. But he just walked around up on the stage, and talked. Pretty good. Well, we start a new series of lessons here this morning, and the series is Limited Resources, Limitless God, okay? And if you notice, the author of the lesson book and the lesson part of my teacher's thing is Matt Tullis. And Matt Tullis is with the Tennessee Baptist Mission Board. And Matt preached here about 1.5 years ago, one Sunday morning. So Matt has been in our church. But Matt is involved a lot with the advertising or the displays that are used by the TBMB. He's a very creative person. He has a great poster that he put together about the cooperative program that he sent me several copies of it. I've got some over in the Team Kia room, and we use them as teaching things about the cooperative program. But they're almost brilliant, and I don't know the other guy, but I just wanted to point out that Matt Tullis is involved this time. And so the title of this first lesson is When Your Faith Falls Short. And the point is that a faith that looks to Jesus is a powerful faith. In that introduction, he talks about, us coming to those times in our life when we're faced with, something that is terrible, and when we begin to sort of lose faith, I would say what the Lawses are dealing with is a chronic problem with which they don't know the answer yet, and it's something they're having to deal with every day. And you never know when that is going to happen or not happen, but it is something that changes your whole life and the life of the whole family, and that can be in a lot of, that's one that we see right here in front of us. But the same thing could be with Don and the diverticulitis. It could be with a family member with dementia. I told y'all that a couple of weeks ago I saw a guy that's very involved in one of our churches who I saw him and was talking to him, and he just didn't seem to be acting right. And then he walked out of the room, and I looked at his preacher, and the preacher said, dementia. I said, when? He said, 2 weeks ago. It was just like that. And now their family's dealing with that. And so it's something with all of us. It's going to be something. It could be the death of a loved one. It could be either something that is prolonged and then, a consistent issue there, or it could be something sudden. But it's where we say things will never change ever, and so that happens. I will read what was said here. We are not alone in any of these emotional swings, bewildering thoughts, and fruitless failures. We come to see that when our tank is empty, when we have little to give, when friends fail, when prayers and strategies fall short, Jesus is just getting started. I like that. Jesus is just getting started. So that's the when we talked about when our faith is weak. When I saw the title, I said, what? Bible story we should look at is, I said, when that guy brought his son up with epilepsy and he asked Jesus to heal him, that would be a great story here. And then I turned the page, and that is the story, because this is a wonderful example of faith. And the way it is taught today is is something I hadn't thought about exactly. I hadn't thought about putting it in that way or perspective that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But this first passage is Matthew 17, 14 through 16. And before I start, what has happened prior to this, 1 through 13, is the transfiguration. It is the story of Jesus taking 3 of the disciples, Peter, James, and John, up on the top of probably Mount Hermon, and because it's near Caesarea Philippi, probably up at the top of Mount Hermon, and left 9 disciples down in their camp. And he goes up on top of this mountain, and there he meets with Moses and Elijah. Moses represents the law, Elijah represents the prophets. And so Jesus meets with the law and the prophets. And so he does that in front of these 3 men who get to watch it. And it's on a mountaintop. So, that's what then brings about to us our analogies of a mountaintop experience and a valley experience in our lives. And it's always interesting to me to see our young people come back from a camp or from a World Changers or from someplace where they have been on a mountaintop for a week, and they come back and they're having to see us who haven't been, and we wonder why the ones coming back from something, from a mission trip, come back and we don't see other people as excited as we are at that moment, These 3 disciples, they were so excited. Peter wanted to stay up there. He wanted to build 3 buildings for them, shacks to live in. And let's just stay up here and live, Why would we go back down to the valley? Why would we go back? And so it happens to us when we are at a revival. It happens to us when we are even alone in a worship experience where God speaks to us in a particular way, or after an event where that we've been through thinking nothing's ever going to change, and it changes, and there is a wonderful result from it. We're on a mountaintop, and everybody else is in the valley, and so that's what's happened here. They were on a mountaintop, and now they leave the mountain and are coming down, and I can only imagine that Peter, James, and John are thinking, we've got to tell the rest of the disciples about what we just saw and what we've experienced, and how are they going to react to all this? This is going to be something, because they've seen Jesus in a glorious form, in a glorious situation, and their picture of him has changed in their lives, I think, from what they said. And so they're wanting to share this message with everybody, And when they get down there, here's what happens. When they reached the crowd, a man approached and knelt down before him. Lord, he said, have mercy on my son, because he has seizures and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire and often into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him. So there you are. A man who is in desperation here, who in their life there's just futility and confusion, repetition. It seems the same thing over and over again is happening in their life. Failure. And I think he saw, and it turned out to be accurate in this situation, he saw that the devil was in it and that evil was in it. And then there was just present in this situation faithlessness. I do like what Matt Tullis said. If I have Jesus, nothing else matters. If I don't have Jesus, nothing else matters. He's the beginning and ending of everything we face. Jesus is.
Tommy, are we living a life in the valley, or are we living a life over here?
I would say most of the time we're somewhere between those two. And that there are times in our lives when we're in the valley and times when we're on the mountaintop. The rest of the time we're between them. you know. But good question. But we see here in this story that the disciples didn't have enough faith to heal this boy. Now, what's interesting is if you go back to Matthew the 10th chapter, Jesus gave them the authority to heal. Gave them the authority to chase out demons, to exorcise demons from people's lives. They had the authority. They just didn't have the power, you know. And so what the commentator says is that maybe it's because they were unplugged from the power source at the time. Jesus was not in their midst. They hadn't been talking to him in the hours or days before this happened. He's up on the mountain with 3 others. These 9 have been disconnected from their power source, and they hadn't been talking to him or praying or considering their spiritual lives at that point. And then they're faced with something. And that's what happens to us too. When we get disconnected and we're not connected to God in the way we should be, through prayer, through devotion, through our seeking of him in our spiritual lives, you know, we get disconnected. And when you're disconnected, it takes away your power source. And then we're weak. And so that's what I think happened here. So this shifted from glory, you know, to just a chaos almost, a situation of chaos. From glory to the valley, you know, from the mountaintop to the valley. And it all happened just pretty quickly. And so the commentator says that in the original oldest manuscripts that the Greek language of it is saying that the man says, please have mercy on my only son. So it was a desperate situation for this man, even more so if that's the case, I think. Have mercy on my only son. And this same story is found in the Gospel of Mark. Mark gives us a few more details about the physical situation of the boy. In Mark it says he had the inability to speak, he had foaming at the mouth, gnashing of the teeth, and would become rigid during these seizures. And it included, in Luke, who was a doctor, Luke would say that he had screaming involved in his convulsions. And so it was a bad situation. In the King James, it described him as a lunatic. Okay. Now I've never thought about this before, but the word lunatic, if you look at the Latin for that, what is the description? What is the word in Latin for the moon?
Luna.
Luna. So a lunatic is a person moonstruck, or in the superstitions of their day for sure, they felt that the moon was involved. You know, we've heard the expression howling at the new moon or howling at the moon, or that the moon controls, the moon does probably control some of the tides, and so they think it controls human action. And I'll just tell you that when it's a full moon, there's more people get arrested, you know, and I don't want to sound superstitious, but I think there's something there. And
The hospitals have a lot more.
Yeah, try working in the
Yeah.
ER full moon. Yeah.
so we have a lot of lunatics out there, you know. That's where the word comes from, is the connection to anything evil or criminal during the moon phases. But anyhow, what's described here is just something that has obsessed this family. You know, they can't do anything else. He falls in the water, falls in the fire. They have to watch this child all the time. Somebody's assigned to this child all the time. And back then, they didn't have government agencies to do that, probably. They're doing it within their own families, neighbors and families and friends. So it's chronic and it's constant and it's a problem. And then he explains that the disciples couldn't heal him. And so that's a problem. Let's look at 17 and 18 then. Jesus replied, "You unbelieving and perverse generation, how long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring him here to me." Then Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and from that moment the boy was healed. So, powerful comment in the situation there. Jesus showed emotions in his human life, and this is frustration, that he shows, and he rebukes these people there in that camp. He railed against them, called them perverse, didn't he? Perverse and unbelieving. And now you wonder who he intended that language to the intended audience for that language, and it would be everybody there. I think including the 9 disciples for sure. Particularly, he reacts with 2 questions. How long am I going to have to be with y'all? I think that sounds more like he's saying it to the 9 disciples. But then in the second question, how long must I put up with you? Could be not just the 9, but the Pharisees and Sadducees and scribes and people that are always hounding him and trying to find him in a trap or put him in a trap. And how long am I going to have to put up with y'all? And that would be the Southern translation. How long would I have to put up with y'all? It's not in the King James or home. But then he turns to the boy, and he says to the boy, he rebukes the demon, and it came out of him, and from that moment the boy was healed. The translation here, it says, the commentary here says that those 3 phrases are aorist tenses. Aorist. Has anybody ever heard of that? Aorist. It basically is a tense that means it is immediate. It is an immediate tense. And the 3 words are connected in the aorist tense, that when he rebuked the demon, it came out and the boy was healed all instantaneously. That's how much power God has, that Jesus has, in the aorist tense. Never heard of it. I'm sorry. But I'm sure Robert would say, oh, yeah, of course. But anyhow, the aorist tense. And I like that because that's the power of God. In the demon, he didn't, dally. He didn't wait to come out of that boy. He came out of that boy. When Jesus had come out, he came out. He might have even been referring to the boy when he says, how long would I have, to the demon, how long would I have to put up with you? I'm telling you, get out of that boy right now. And it was instantaneous. It's still something that bothers you when you think about the inability of the 9 disciples to do that. They had the authority and the power of Jesus was there for them, that they just didn't know how to appropriate the power. They didn't know how to harness the power to do that. But anyhow, it was
They had not collected the requisite number of mustard seed
Yeah.
that Jesus expected of them at that time.
Yeah, I like that. Yes. But, you know, this is the part of the lesson that really I like, and hopefully we've got time. 19 and 20. Let's read those real quick. Then the disciples approached Jesus privately and said, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" And Jesus said, "Because of your little faith," he told them. "For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will tell this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it'll move. Nothing will be impossible for you." So he describes mountain moving. You know, a mountain moving. We've had a mountaintop. Now it's a mountain moving, but he's probably pointing at the same mountain. They're standing at the foot of a mountain, Mount Hermon. And he's saying to them that if you have enough faith, the faith of the mustard seed, you could say to that mountain, "Move," and it would move. I think he was being metaphorical. I think he's using, as he often did, hyperbole, outlandish statements to make his point. I don't think he's saying to them, "You're going to move that mountain." And Jesus didn't move the mountain, you know, to show it. Could have. Now, he could have. But he's using these two incredible extremes to make a point. And the point the commentator says is that the presence of faith, not the amount of faith, is what matters. Just the presence of faith. Not how much faith, the quantity of faith, it's the quality of it. It's just the presence of it that makes the difference. And the example comes clearer when you think about the father of the boy. In Mark, I think it's the 9th chapter, 24th verse, it's just that verse that I think about a lot, you know. Jesus says, "I can heal the boy if you believe." And the man said, "I do believe, help my unbelief." Isn't that a beautiful expression? Because it's where we all are. You know, it seems to me at these times when these things are happening to us, we believe, you know, we're Christians, we believe in Jesus Christ, we've accepted his grace and redemption of our sins, we believe in him, we believe he's got the power to do that, and then sometimes our belief is weak, though, when we're faced with something that's as big as a mountain. And these things, the thing that this father had was as big as a mountain. You know, it was as big as a mountain. But the little faith that he had caused that demon to leave that boy. Okay? You got to compare too in this story, to me, in the Bible story, the faith of the father compared to the faith of 9 disciples. Those 9 disciples knew Jesus, you know, as well as anybody. They were part of a family. They were with each other every day and night. And they had been with him. They were part of his ministry. He had already given them powers that were not given to anybody else. Their faith is evident, you know. But it was this little faith that helped that boy come to know Jesus, you know, and come to Jesus. He came there believing that Jesus was his only, in his last resort, in his last resource, and he came there believing that Jesus could take care of this, you know, and even though he says, "I believe, but help my unbelief," so he's admitting he doesn't have a lot of faith, but he has some. And that's where it says that the presence of faith at all is the important thing, not the amount of faith. It's any faith. The faith as small as the smallest thing that they could imagine, which is a grain of mustard seed. To them, it wasn't a molecule and an atom. It was a mustard seed. If you were describing the smallest thing that a person could see, It was a mustard seed. And so he uses that in the largest thing that was around him when he was talking, that mountain. And when he says the mountain, he's describing all these terrible things that can happen in our life. But it's a wonderful story. And it's got one of the greatest phrases from a human in talking to Jesus, and that is, "I believe, but help my unbelief." And I think that the Bible teaches us, if to answer that man's comment, I believe, help my unbelief, what's the best way Jesus could help his unbelief? Take that demon out of that boy. So Jesus answered his comment, which is a prayer, help my unbelief. And Jesus said, okay. He said, get out of that boy right now. And that demon left him, and he was healed immediately. Now that man is a believer now, okay? That father would be as great a believer as Jesus had, was that man. And probably everybody else that was there. But we need to keep our connections to Jesus, okay? So we need to pray about everything. We need to be in the habit of praying to God about everything. And then we are to do what, now I didn't really even mention this, but I love the comment from Jesus after he rebukes everybody. His last comment was, bring him to me. Bring him to me. Is that not a beautiful phrase? Jesus saying, bring him to me. Okay? And I'm just going to tell you that throughout the ministry of Jesus, he is asking for people to be brought to him, or he goes to them. Jesus engages in the lives of other people. And that's our example of what he wants us to be. He wants us to engage ourselves in the lives of other people. And so the last thing is that once we have continued to pray and have our connection to the power source, and once we have engaged and found the ministry that God is directing us to, then we need to dare to do it, and to really put our feet where our heart is. We need to move into action and step out and dare to step out and do what it is God is directing us to do. And I think that's all from this Bible story. And move from doubt to faith, from doubt, to faith to action, And I think that's what we're supposed to learn from this lesson today.
Tommy, I think Jesus in turn, when he talks about the mustard seed, I think he intends for us to plant that mustard seed and see what it grows into.
That was another point I meant to make, is that a seed is something that actually grows, and so it's a beautiful example that Jesus used is a seed, because I guess he could have used a pebble, he could have used some other small thing, but he used a seed, and he used a smallest seed, but that seed can grow, and it does grow into a significant plant. So thank you for pointing that out, because that was something I meant to say. And let's have a closing prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the day. Thank you for your blessings. Lord, thank you for the scriptures. Thank you for these wonderful lessons that are found therein. And Lord, thank you for those that prepare these lessons and these units of lessons. And we thank you for Matt Tullis, who we know. And thank you that he was led to do this and became involved. And Lord, thank you for that connection. But Lord, thank you so much for the lesson that we've been taught today. When we're going through terrible trials and tribulations in our life, and we think that we see no end in sight to them, and it seems to be permanent and ever, help us to trust in you and have faith in you and believe in you. And Lord, we do believe in you, but we do ask that you help our unbelief and help us to grow in our faith like a mustard seed grows, and help us, Lord, to trust in you. Help us to continue to pray to you and search the scriptures and stay connected to you. Help us then to engage with all those that are around us, particularly those people that you lead us to. And then, Lord, help us to dare to accept the responsibility and commission that you place before us, and help us to for our doubts to lead to faith and our faith into actions. And forgive us for our many sins. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, missed you last week. We missed you last week. You doing better? Well, good luck. I hope it's